Good evening, friends. I welcome all of you for the sixth webinar of Corporate Professional. I thank all of you because in this program we received more than 1100 registration, and people, those who are giving reaction about our program, that our Q&A session is very good. So thanks for your love and affection which you are bestowing us, and this gives encouragement to organize more and more better program for the profession. Friends, when we were organizing this topic, then issue was coming that it's a very simple topic, all issues are settled. Why we are organizing this program? As you are aware, MR was always issue earlier when in 2000 before this new Companies Act. Net profit calculation as per 349, net profit calculation as per new section 198, effective capital, schedule 5, inadequacy of profit, and then government approval. So these were the some issues which was always gray, and always you have to refer to government. But now there's no government approval. Government is saying that you manage your thing. It's your indoor management. If there is an inadequacy, go to your shareholders. And then they give SOP also, and they explain the rules of game, that in which case what you have to do. So now the ball is in the board, ball is in the shareholders. But still there are so many things which are gray, which require some explanation, some understanding. And then come COVID-19. Now this COVID-19 has created some unprecedented situation where the simplified law has converted into some new gray area. The gray area is various companies are defaulting. What is the position if you have approved the remuneration? What is the position in default case? Every company is doing salary cut. So they will not cut only the workers, they are cutting the salary of across everybody. Various companies has announced that they are reducing their chief executive and the director's salary. Now the question is, reduction of remuneration can be self also, can be compulsive also. The board can decide compulsorily to reduce this. Then profit is inadequate because you decide that there should be say 100 crore profit and profit is 70, then there's a problem. Now in various cases, lenders are saying you have to come and take our approval. Then some related party transactions which are bound to happen, that has some problem. Then some taxation issue. Recently we have seen the GST ruling of advance ruling, where there's a contradictory ruling that the director's remuneration will attract GST. So one ruling is saying something, and some that is another gray area is created. Then ESOP valuation. So these are some issues which are essential that we have to clarify this. And lots of our clients, lots of our people are asking us what to do in this scenario. Friends, as you are aware that the remuneration was always a talking point in India. We have seen the remuneration from 150 crore to take Mahindra's MD to we have seen the Mukesh Ambani's remuneration of 15 crore as compared to their profitability. So if you see the top 10 CEO of the companies and their remuneration 150, 66, 62 crore, 60 crore, 45 crore, 25 crore, this is the range. And this range is in percentage term 3.32, 0.64% depends upon the profit of the company. But people are not seeing what is allowed, people are saying what is the amount. So this is always is a point which is people discuss about this issue. Now the question is, this remuneration part is only a legal part or some governance issues also there? So if you see, there are various, always there is an issue of governance relating to independent directors remuneration, where the commission is allowed. Always people think that if you pay this much of amount, whether the independence of director will be there or not. That's why government previously they were giving ESOP, but they have removed now. Now, non-executive director remuneration issue is there. A new section, new amendment to 2020 is prescribing some relaxation in this. Professional directors are on the board and they are getting commission also, or when they are not getting commission, they are providing their professional services. This is always a question whether they are independent or not, because if you are taking some hefty fees from the board, from the company, then the question is, where is your independence? Then the question comes, sometimes the loss-making company, don't have profit, but you require turnaround expert. Here this also require a special expert. Then new companies acts provide that even if you are giving salary to your employee, you have to come out with mean salary in and the report in the board report, where your peon to MD, everybody's salary you have to give a mean in the board report. So all these changes they have brought out because of governance issue. And I remember there was one incident where a friend of mine was working in a very big, good governed company, and he was a company secretary there. So some independent director asked him, okay, please, why can't you give our commission, because that company was giving commission. So they asked that why you can't give commission on monthly basis in place of giving quarterly or half yearly basis. The company secretary has refused, and he told that there is an issue, I will explain in the board. Now when the board meeting started and this issue came, everybody was in favor that you can pay monthly commission. So he asked one question, and that is a very interesting governance issue. He asked, the monthly salary, who is getting monthly salary? The person who has to survive his livelihood. So he told that they are the independent directors and their commission amount is payable on quarterly, 6 monthly or yearly basis. Why they are asking monthly? It means their livelihood depending upon this remuneration. So it means if livelihood affecting this, it means they are not independent. So friends, so many questions are coming. So many questions are discussed in the boardroom, outside boardroom, professionals discussion. So the remuneration process is not only a small issue, is a bigger dimension. Today, when we were thinking that this program will be a very simple program, but we have received more than 70 queries from the participant, and we will try to, we have already incorporated these queries in the presentation, but some queries which are not incorporated, I will ask from the other people. I hope that this program will be very useful for all of you, keeping in mind not the simplicity point, but on the point of the COVID issue. And Nitesh Latwal, he is a principal associate of corporate professional, and Ankit Singhi, he is a partner in corporate professional. Both will give a presentation. So I will request Nitesh to explain about this law and the questions which I have raised in your presentation. And after that, we will have question answer and we will discuss each and everything threadbare. Thank you very much. Nitesh, over to you. Nitesh, your voice is not coming. Nitesh, voice.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah, now, yeah.
Is it audible now?
Yeah, yes.
Good evening, friends. I thank Pawan Vijay sir to give this opportunity so that I can share managerial remuneration part. So this topic is actually a very interesting topic and very technical nature. So one, if we go through the provision of the law and understanding it very clearly, so one can even use this section to increase the payout of their executive directors, their MD, and even independent directors. So so one has to understand what are the implications, what are small provisions are there which can regulate remuneration, or even make the remuneration, or make the directors ineligible for getting the remuneration. So as Mr. Pavan Vijay said, that rule of the game is set. So the first rule of the game we have to understand first. So the rule of the game is mentioned under section 197. So 197 is a very, so which regulate actually the remuneration of the managerial persons. If I say a managerial persons, then it covers only a directors, not company secretary and CFO, nor chief executive who is not on the board of the company. So the key ingredients of 197, first we have to understand what are the key ingredients of the section 197. So the key ingredients are that the remuneration has to be determined on annual basis. Second key ingredient is the maximum remuneration is 11%. Then we have to calculate net profit on each year basis. So there is one concept of inadequate profits, which we take later part of this presentation. And in case of inadequate profit, you need to comply with the Schedule 5. And if you have a default, so whether the remuneration can be paid or not, we have to analyze that. And then comes out the waiver part. So these are the key ingredients of section 197. Then now we start with the first part. So the first part is the remuneration paid. So the remuneration paid, uh, so the remuneration to be paid, which is regulated by 197, is of executive directors and other non-executive directors and managers. So what are the components of remuneration? So under 1956 Act, so remuneration is not actually defined. It just say what shall be included, what shall not be included under remuneration. So under the Companies Act 2013, they have specifically mentioned the definition of remuneration. So under section 2 subsection 78, this is remuneration means any money. One second.
Nitish, your voice.
Any money or its equivalent given to or passed on to a person for services rendered by the director. So that is the one part, that a hard earned money given to a director forms part of the remuneration. And other part of the remuneration is the perquisites. So all kinds of perquisites, whether it's a taxable or non-taxable, and which is defined at the Income Tax Act, forms part of your remuneration. So the component of the remuneration is salary, perquisite, and commission. So the remuneration can be paid in salary part, remuneration can be paid in the perquisite part, remuneration can be paid in commission. So this is the inclusive part. So exclusion is any kind of reimbursement. If any kind of reimbursement is paid to that director, that should not form part of the remuneration. Now this comes the rules. Now this comes the rule of the play, which says that maximum 11% of the remuneration can be distributed among the directors. So, and out of that, 5% can be paid to each director who is in the whole time, or who is executive director, or who is MD of the company. And if they are more than such directors, so maximum limit is 10%. And in case of non-executive director, so if you do not have any MD executive directors, you can pay up to if you don't have MD or whole-time director, you can pay 3%. If they are MD whole-time director, you can pay 1%. So the second part of the rule is net profit. So net profit has to be calculated in accordance with the Companies Act. It is not that net profit as arriving in the balance sheet, or as mentioned in the balance sheet, audited balance sheet, is taken as a net profit. So net profit, so there is a calculation which is mentioned under section 198 of the Companies Act, which says that you should arrive net profit as per section 198. So there might be a possibility that in case of audited balance sheet, there is a net profit. There is a huge net profit. But once you calculate the net profit 198, one may find that the net profit is not sufficient. Actually, there is no such profit in their company. So the simple formula of section 198, or simple formula to calculate the remuneration to net profit, is just that uh, you should you should include those part as a income which is actually earned by the company, and exclude every provision out of your income, just like provision for doubtful debts and provision for any kind of income which are in the nature of provision, that has to be deducted from the income part. And on the other side, if they are expenses which are provisional in nature, that has to be added back to the net profit. So the simple formula to arrive at to the net profit is to disregard every kind of provision which is there in the net profit calculated as per the audited balance sheet. So once you arrive to the net profit, so you have to add back the remuneration whatsoever given to the your executive, non-executive directors. So then you calculate the 5% limit, you calculate 10% limit, 1%, and then 11%. So how can you pay the remuneration? So there's a monthly payment as well. There can be a sitting fees. There as a profit related commission. So generally, practically the monthly payment is given to executive, no, executive director, your MD, and sitting fees is generally paid to that non-executive directors. And profits related commission, that too also given to that non-executive director and independent directors. So the now comes to the sitting fees. So sitting fees is never included in the definition of the remuneration as per section 197. So the board can, it is the prerogative of the board to decide to pay the sitting fees or not to pay the sitting fees. So the sitting fees is actually not defined under the Companies Act. The company law only says that you can pay a fee for attending the meeting. So the board can decide whether to pay the sitting fees or not. Or there's also a myth that that sitting fees cannot be paid to the executive director. So I just want to clarify here that the law does not restrict that you cannot pay sitting fees to your executive directors, but practically EDs are not actually given the sitting fees. So the sitting fees, the limit of the sitting fees under the company law is 1 lakh per meeting. So the company can decide that they can pay the sitting fees to the committees as well for attending the committee meeting as well. So the committee can be statutory in nature and non-statutory in nature. So because there are many companies which are regulated by the banking IRDA, which where there are numerous of there which are statutory and under their respective laws, like Banking Regulation Act and Insurance Act. So the board may decide to pay the sitting fees for attending those committee meetings as well. So, there is one more provision which says that board may decide for any other purpose. So the board in its constitutional right that they can pay the fees for even passing the resolution by circulation. So they are in their rights, because attending the meeting, it means you are investing your time and you are giving the advice to the company whether to do that transaction or not to do that transaction. So by passing resolution by circulation, the same kind of time is also devoted by the directors. So the board, if they want to do that, they can pay the sitting, they can pay the fees, not sitting fees, but they can pay the fees for even passing the resolution by circulation. So the law does not restrict the board. So the law is so there's another provision in the sitting fees that there should not be any disparity between the sitting fees paid to independent women director vis-a-vis non-executive directors. So So the sitting fees being paid to independent directors and women directors should not be less than the sitting fees being paid to other non-executive directors. So we have to understand that independent and women director, they have a specific role to play in the company. So they should so there so there should not be disparity in the remuneration of these person as vis-a-vis other non-executive directors. So so they so there is a 11% limit under the company law which we need to take care of it. So that 11% limit can be used in any way. For example, in a company where there's one whole-time director and one MD and others are non-executive director, the whole-time director is getting 3% and MD is getting 3% of the net profit, and all other non-executive directors accumulately drawing 1% remuneration. So here we can increase the remuneration of my MD. If my MD proposes me that whether I can get the remuneration over the 5%, so we have to check the 11% criteria. So if my MD is getting now 3%, so I can increase that remuneration to the MD up to 7% of the net profit by passing special resolution in the general meeting. So you can actually use that limit for the purpose of increasing the remuneration to any one of the director, to all the directors. Even if there is no even if there is no executive director drawing municipal remuneration or a nil remuneration, the non-executive director's remuneration can be increased up to 11%. So 11% has should not be breached at anywhere. So 11% is limit is open for every director, whether it be a executive director, whether it be a full-time director, whether it be a MD, or whether it be a non-executive and independent director. So once we propose to increase that limit, we have to check the limits. If we are breaching that limit, then schedule 5 comes into play. So we have to see whether I can use that 11% limit for the benefit of one executive director or other executive director. So the remuneration paid beyond 11%. So whenever I say whether I can pay remuneration beyond 11%, so the answer is yes, I can pay, but we need to comply with certain provisions. So Schedule 5 comes into play. So the act allows the payment of managerial remuneration beyond 11% without central government approval. So here we have specifically written without central government approval because there was an amendment came in 12th of September 2018. From that amendment, the central government approval was removed from the provisions of the company law. So there is the basis of removing that central government approval is that there is a CLC committee report which says that that MCA should not be brought in to regulate the remuneration of its directors. It should be the prerogative of the company to decide whether to pay remuneration or not to pay remuneration. The MCA should not interfere with the with the company, should not interfere with the company and regulate the remuneration of executive director. It is the prerogative of the shareholder to deny the remuneration or to approve the remuneration. So, from the 12th of September 2018, so there was, if you are paying the remuneration and if you are not complying with the provision of the law, you need not to go to the central government. You have to approach back to your shareholder to get the approval done. So the payment of remuneration in case of profit beyond 11% is treated as inadequate profit. So what do you mean by inadequate profit? So this example will clearly specify that what is adequacy and what is not. So inadequate profit means the company earns profit, but they are not adequate enough to to pay the remuneration within the limits of 11%. Just for example, that today my MD's remuneration is 5 CR. Okay. So the last year remuneration is 5 CR and the last year net profit was 100 crores. So it was a sufficient profit that I can pay to my MD. So that is within the limit. So I need not to go to the shareholder to get that approval or to get that the waiver. But in the next year, the remuneration remains the same, but the net profit dips. So here, the limit was, as per the law, was 4 crore, but actually the remuneration is given 5 crore. So here you understand that the profit is there, but they are inadequate enough just the remuneration will be in the limits of that 5%. So my 80 crore profits becomes inadequate to have the remuneration paid within the limits. So the 5 crore vis-a-vis against the net profit of 80 crore, that 4 crore is the limit and 5 crore is the remuneration paid. So my 80 crore profit becomes inadequate even if I have earned profit. Okay. So the remuneration beyond 11%. So there is a difference between the remuneration in case of inadequate profit. We have to see the compliance part. So compliance part in case of executive director, if I'm giving remuneration beyond 11%, so I have to comply with the schedule 5. So schedule 5 has numerous kind of compliances. Just we will take that in the latter part of the presentation. In case of NED does not, the schedule 5 is not applicable to NED. So the limit, so the so the unless until I have my profit, I can pay to my non-executive director, including independent director. But if I do not have profits, it meaning thereby I have losses, I cannot pay a single penny of rupee to my non-executive director, to my independent director. The law is very clear that you can pay to your non-executive director if you have profits in your hand. I can pay if I earn net profit of one rupee, I can pay that 1 rupee to that non-executive director. But if I have losses, I cannot pay remuneration to my non-executive directors. In the Companies Law Amendment Bill, which is pending for approval, so they are proposing that we should be open enough to pay to the non-executive director, including IDs, even if the company has losses. But it is still pending, so it is not there in the books right now. The next part is the remuneration for professional services. So there are generally these kind of services being provided by non-executive directors. So there is no such actually prohibition whether executive director cannot provide other professional services in other capacity. So generally, I'm talking about generally and practically, these kind of professional services are generally provided by the non-executive directors. So if that services are being provided by the non-executive director, so here the role of the nomination remuneration committee comes into picture, which has to ensure that which has to ensure that which has to ensure that the services being provided by that director are of professional in nature, and 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 there is a direct relationship between the other services being provided and the qualification he is having. It means, for example, if there is a if there is an civil engineer who is a non-executive director on the board of a company, can provide advice to the company or to the board in the matter of civil engineering if that company is into the real estate business. So that is fine. Then that remuneration will not form part of the remuneration under Section 197. But if that civil engineering is providing services in corporate laws, which he does not possess that qualification as well, then that remuneration will become a remuneration of that director and has to be regulated by 197. So there must be a so the conclusion is that whatever be the services being provided by the director, it has to be in accordance with the qualification he have and the advices he is providing. So this is the responsibility of the NRC, who will take care, or who will ensure that these services uh, is are in the nature of the services from the other capacity, and whatever his services provided, he does possess those qualification in for the practice of that profession. So coming on to the next part, if if that so if the NRC is concluding that remuneration is actually a services providing out of his own qualification, then that kind of remuneration should not form part of 197, but it will form part of under 188, which talks about office or place of profit. So in case of office or place of profit, there's a limit of 2.5 lakh per month. So if the fees are provided is more than 2.5 lakh, then the shareholder prior approval of the shareholders is required. But there's one more catch also in 188, which says if the remuneration, if any kind of services or any kind of related party transaction is being entered are in the ordinary course of business or at arm's length prices, then there no need to take the shareholder approval. So one has to keep in mind, if you are taking services from the director and you do not form part of this 197. So that has to be kept in mind, that 188 is also complied with. So in case of independent director, if that independent director, because most of that independent directors are providing professional services out of his own name or out of the name of his her firm. So they have to see the limits. If that limit is breached, then their independency will be at stake. So they no longer will be called as an independent director of the company. So it has to be kept in mind that whatever be the remuneration we are giving, either out of professional in nature, they must be within the limits of Section 149, which talks about the eligibility criteria of independent directors. So we jump on to the next, the approval mechanism. So the approval mechanism, the approval mechanism will work like this. So whenever a remuneration is decided, the remuneration is first, in case of directors, whenever their appointment is made, the appointment is proposed by actually nomination remuneration committee, because because they have their one of their function, that they have to identify some person to act as a director of the company. So while deciding their candidature and while proposing their candidature to be appointed as a director in the company, they are also proposing the remuneration. So 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 the first approval mechanism is nomination remuneration committee. Then comes out to be the audit committee. So the audit in certain cases, why we have written in certain cases, because if any person has just joined the company, so at the first point of time, he is not a related party. But if that director is already a director in the company and his remuneration is getting revised, so the audit committee will come into play. So the audit committee approval is also required. And finally, the board approval. So under 196, every executive director has to be appointed and his remuneration has to be decided. And then after the board approval, the proposal will pass on to the shareholder. So the shareholder approval is required for getting that appointment and getting the remuneration approved by the shareholder. So one has to check whether they are one has to check whether to take ordinary resolution or special resolution at the time of appointment. If you are very much sure that my profit will be good enough to absorb that remuneration within the limits, so pass the ordinary resolution. If you have slightest of the doubt in your mind, considering COVID-19 pandemic, where there will be a pressure on the company to earn profit or to actually earn the profit as equal to which you earned in the last year, then you must go shareholder resolution by you must have shareholder resolution in the form of special resolution, so that in the next year when you have not inadequate profit, you do not rush to the shareholder again for waiver. So next part, approval mechanism in case of listed company. So, this is a new provision under listing regulations, which is also kind of regulating the remuneration of directors. So, I think Regulation 17 talks about the remuneration of directors, which says in case of non-executive director, the regulation says the annual remuneration payable to single non-executive directors should not exceed 50% of the annual remuneration payable to non-executive director. It means if there is a disparity between the remuneration of one director vis-a-vis remuneration of all other non-executive directors, so the shareholder approval has to be obtained by way of special resolution. And this limit has to be checked every year. This limit has to be checked every year. So if you are proposing to give your non-executive director or any independent director any kind of remuneration which is more than the remuneration as against vis-a-vis the non-executive director, you must take shareholder approval by way of special resolution, or you can take that resolution in the upcoming AGM as well. So there is one peculiar situation I want to highlight. So if any non-executive director is providing professional services in any other capacity, so we have just analyzed that if any director is providing professional service in any other capacity, so that will not form part of the managerial remuneration under the company law. But that is not the case in case of LODR. So if you are proposing to give remuneration, you are escape the provisions of 197, but but it is difficult to escape this listing regulation provision. So you have to take the shareholder approval if any of your non-executive director is providing professional services in any other capacity. So next part is under the same regulation. The next part is the payment of remuneration to executive directors who are promoter and members of the promoter group. So they are regulating the remuneration of promoter directors or the member of the promoter directors. So in case of professional directors who are into executive role, who are professional executive directors, their remuneration are not actually regulated under this listing regulation. They have to follow only 197 regulation, 197 provisions of the company law. So the regulation says where the remuneration payable to executive directors who are promoter member of the promoter group, if the annual remuneration payable to such executive director exceeds 5% or 2.5% of the net profit, whichever is higher. So it's very important that whatever be the remuneration is fixed, the fixed within those limits. But they are also saying whichever is higher. So higher can be more than 5 crore, it can be 10 crore, it can be anything. But the second clause which says, which makes which create troubles in the minds of that in the minds of the company, which says that if there are more such executive directors, so the aggregate remuneration to such director exceeds 5% of the net profit, then you need to take shareholder approval. The above says which is whichever is higher. Now it is in the above clause, it is giving you a free hand that you pay as much as remuneration as you can. And the second clause says you cannot, that the total remuneration of all executive directors shall not exceed 5%. So here I want to make this situation very clear, which which says, for example, there is a promoter director in the company, two promoter director, one is MD, one is whole time director. They have been paid remuneration 5 crore each. They are within the limits of the company law. Even they are within the limits of the remuneration individual basis only, individual basis as under the SEBI listing regulations. So so they are complying with the law. But if you see the clause B on that aggregate part, they are not complying with that 5% limit. So in that case, one of the director remuneration has to be go to the shareholder for getting that special resolution passed. So if this is a very peculiar situation, that you are complying with maximum part of the provisions of the law under company law and the listing regulation, but one clause is not complied with. For that one clause, you have to go back to the shareholder approval again if you have not passed, and if you have not passed special resolution earlier. So so the next part is approval mechanism. In the approval mechanism, there is a default clause as well. So the default clause is not very unique. It was there earlier as well under the Companies Act 1956. It was there till that new notification came into picture. So earlier the rule of the game was that the default has to be seen in the preceding year from the year in which you are appointed. So that is the rule of the game under earlier provisions of that law. But now that default, now the after the amendment came into picture, now the default has to be seen on each day, on each month, on each year. So if you are paying to your lenders, but you have not paid today and you are at default because of any reason, technical or otherwise, you have to approach to the lender to get the prior approval. So it's a very difficult situation here. It's a very difficult situation here. You need to get that approval of your lenders. If you have default, if you have default in payment of dues to your banks, PFI, NCD holders, or any secured holders. So whether the question arises whether the remuneration can be paid before before obtaining the approval in case of default. What if default is triggered after the shareholder approval? So there might be a situation, because in this pandemic year, so one can imagine that somewhere since there is a moratorium period, so after that moratorium period is over, so there might be possibility that most of the companies make a default. So in case you make a default, you cannot, you have to stop the payment to be paid to that your executive director. You first approach to that lender to get the approval, and then you start paying the remuneration. But the question arises whether the shareholder approval is further required, uh, which we think that we should not approach back to the shareholder approval, because we have already taken the shareholder approval. So this is there is RBI notification which talks about the moratorium period. So the moratorium period is till 31st of August 2020, in which if you don't make any kind of payment during this period, so that will not tantamount to default. So you can pay the remuneration till the moratorium period is there. So the remuneration is so so we come down to the next part, which says the remuneration in the form of ESOP. So the ESOP is a perquisite. So the perquisite will be treated as a part of the remuneration. So there's a once so 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 the ESOP perquisite is of such a nature that whenever that perquisite is actually given to you, it is not added to the remuneration at the time of granting, but that perquisite will form part of your remuneration once you exercise the option. So there is a complete mismatch between the net profit when you are given ESOP perquisite, and and you have to see the net profit at the time of exercising the option, because under income tax law it is very clear that perquisite will be added to the remuneration of any person when those ESOPs are added back, when those ESOPs are actually exercised by the employee or by the director in that case. So there might be possibility that at the time of granting that ESOP, my profits are good enough, but at that point of time, the remuneration, it is not added back to my remuneration. But at the time of exercising that option, there might be possibility that 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 profits are not even good enough are not good enough, so that once you added back that perquisite value to your remuneration at that in the year when you exercise the option, it may be possibility that it breached the limits. So in that scenario, you have to approach to the shareholder for the waiver. So both the parties are not in the intention whether to they are not in the intention that to breach the limit, but due to that nature of the ESOP are such like that, and due to the income tax rule are such like that, it will become the part of the remuneration at the time of exercising the option. So one has to be cautious enough while you exercise the options. So the next part is sweat equity ratio. The sweat equity ratio shall also be treated on the same line of ESOP, but in this, once on the date when you been allotted sweat equity shares, then it is added back. Then it is added to your remuneration. Now comes the Schedule 5 part. So the Schedule 5 is first of all applicable to all the executive directors and managers. So the Schedule 5 has to be checked. So the Schedule 5 has to be checked on each year basis. In case of loss and inadequacy, the Schedule 5 attracts situations under which major remuneration can be paid and necessary compliances in this regard. So these are the compliances. So there is a limit prescribed under Schedule 5, which is based upon the effective capital of the company. So the effective capital of the company has to be calculated yearly in order to check the limits whether the remuneration is within that table or not, which you are actually seeing. So so now the question arises whether I have to pay within the limits of this Schedule 5 or not. The answer is partly yes, partly no, because this is the limit. If you are paying in accordance with this limit, you get the shareholder pass by way of ordinary resolution. But if you want to pay in excess of these limits, then you get the shareholder resolution passed by way of special resolution. So this is the formula of this determining the effective capital. So the effective capital is determined the summation of paid up share capital, your security premium account, reserve and surplus, all kind of reserve and surplus will form part of this effective capital, excluding revaluation reserve. And the long-term loans, deposits payable after 1 year, as reduced by the investment made by the company, except the investment company. So the Schedule 5 is also divided into Part A and Part B. Part A talks about the remuneration of all directors, and second part talks about if the manager person is of professional nature. He is not related to the promoter, or he is not having any kind of interest in the share capital in excess of 0.5% of the share capital. If the if the professional director is getting the remuneration in excess of the limits of Schedule 5, then the special resolution has to be passed for making the payment to that professional director. Next part, the common compliances for both the executive directors who are related to promoter and to the professional director. So the common part is the common compliances. If I say this, the common compliances are this: the approval of the board of directors is required, along with the nomination remuneration committee, if there is any nomination remuneration committee. Then, if you have made a default, you get that prior approval before getting the remuneration being paid to that director. Then the remuneration cannot be fixed for more than 3 years. You have to fix the remuneration for 3 years, and certain disclosures have to be made in the general meeting. So that part, the remuneration based on effective, the ordinary or special resolution in case in case of director other than professional director, and for professional director, special resolution is required. So the next part is remuneration to executive director beyond 11%, or in case of losses. So where the remuneration in excess of the limit is paid by any other company. So this is section 3 of Schedule 5, which says which regulate the remuneration of certain other companies. If there is a so there is also no limit. So you do not need to comply with the limits of the effective capital, which is based on the effective capital. If that remuneration is being paid by one of the directors of one of the company is getting paid by foreign company, then you need not to check the limits. When the remuneration is being paid by other company, and that other company has got the approval of shareholder, and the limits of the remuneration and the limits of all the remuneration, including the remuneration of our executive director, is within the limits of 197. And if the company is newly incorporated company, and for the next 7 years from the date of incorporation, you need not to take the shareholder approval. You need not to comply with the limits. And where the company is sick company, which is declared sick, so you need not to take that. You need not to comply with the limit. And where the company is a new company out of IBC, then you have the exemption of 5 years. And where the remuneration is fixed by NCLT, so you need not to comply with the limits. So the common condition for all those companies that you need to pass shareholder approval by way of ordinary resolution. And that manager person is not receiving remuneration from any other company, and a certificate from the auditor, from the company secretary in practice, that the lender's approval has been that no objection has been received from the lender, and there is no default actually. So there is one example that if there is a 3 executive director in a company and both are receiving 5% each, So how to get and for whom to get the remuneration. So if you if you have the 11% limit, you have the 11% limit and individually 5% limit. So individually they are in compliance with the law, but if you accumulate the remuneration of all directors, they are in excess of the 11% limit. So the company can decide for whom I have to take the approval. It can be A, it can be B, it can be C, because except one director, both directors are within the limits, and in accumulation they are within the limits of 11%. So it is the prerogative of the company to decide for whom he has to approach for getting the shareholder approval. So there are some points which have to be considered in case of loss or inadequate. These are that in while calculating the remuneration as per Schedule 5, you need not to consider the following items in the remuneration part. One is contribution to the provident fund, superannuation fund, annuity fund, and whatever is the gratuity payable, and encashment of leave and certain allowances in case of expats. So there are foreign directors who are on the board of the company. So there are following allowances which do not form part of the remuneration of such foreign directors. The remuneration in case of inadequacy or loss. Currently, in case of loss, there is no way to pay remuneration, which we discussed earlier, but except in any other capacity if that person is providing foreign professional services. In case of which we have already covered earlier as well, that in case of inadequate profit, we can still pay to the non-executive directors. So the next part comes out, the waiver part. So waiver means when this situation arises. So the situation of waiver arises when I have not obtained the approval. For example, I have to take the approval of the lender because my company was in default. I did not take the approval, or I or 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 there are no default, but I had to take a special resolution for giving the remuneration in excess of the limit, and that I have not taken by way of special resolution. Then the waiver comes into picture. So whatever be the excess amount which I have paid to the director, it has to be paid back to the company. So it has to be paid back to the company. Now the company can decide whether to waive the recovery or to not. If the company decides to waive the recovery of excess remuneration, then they have to go back to the shareholder and get the resolution of the shareholder by way of special resolution. So there is a time limit under the law by which you can by which within which you have to recover the amount, or you waive the recovery. So there is a time limit of 2 years from the date such excess part becomes refundable. So when I have to determine that from which date the 2 year period will start. So when that audited balance sheet is finalized, it's signed by the board. From that year, from that date till the 2 years from that date, it has to be either recovered or waived. So the managerial remuneration during 2021. So being a COVID-19 situation this year, so there is a pressure on the company. So the profits may be at very low. So some might be on the verge of collapse, or some might be having losses in this current year. So we would suggest that you, in the upcoming forthcoming meeting, forthcoming AGM, you get the shareholder approval, get that limits passed by the shareholder. If you have that remuneration within the limit, then it is fine. But if you have that limit in excess of the limit, get the special resolution passed before the closure of this current financial year. So there's a two way of getting the shareholder approval. So you can pass through postal ballot, or you can simply pass the special resolution in the forthcoming AGM. So there are, as the Pawan sir in the initial introduction, at the time of the introduction of this, so he said that many of the executive director has come forward and even voluntary do their voluntary surrender their half of their remuneration in some cases. So what to do in that case? So we are simply suggesting that, so if it is for a 1 or 2 or 3 months, so need not to amend your existing contract. If you amend that existing contract, then so there is one more compliance which comes into picture, that if you make any kind of amendment in your existing contract, then you have to file that revised terms and condition with the ROC. But if it is for temporary period, then it does not tantamount to modification. It is not a verification. So simply you take that you simply take that if it is for a 3 or 4 or for a temporary period, so you need not to get that approval of NRC or audit committee. You just simply take that one letter from that interested executive director and take this on the record, so that once the situation recovers, then we will pay the remuneration as decided by the board earlier. So modification measure remuneration, so far it does not lead to increase, so will not require shareholder approval. So it is for clarification. Board is competent enough to modify the remuneration within the overall remuneration. If he wants to modify it, it does not mean that if you are modifying for a temporary basis, then the board has to pass through shareholder resolution. It is always advisable to get the board approved and to get that NRC approval. But if you are not able to take this, then there is no such any non-compliance. But as a good practice, you take the board approval or NRC or even the HR who will record that for that remuneration part. So from my side, it is all about the rules about the remuneration part to the directors. So Pawan sir, please take it.
Okay, thank you, Ritesh. Thank you very much. Now I'm taking the question answer because we have received so many questions. So I will request Ankit to take up these questions, but take up in the very fast mode, because we have Nitesh has explained everything. So Ankit, I'm starting with you. Please inform provision with regard to a private company where MD had decided to forego his commission, whether it is required to be noted at board meeting. Ankit, your voice. No, your voice is not coming, Ankit.
So I think I am audible now.
Yes, carry on.
So it can be noted in the board meeting. There is no such compulsion.
We can note it, or we can without noting. We can go ahead.
We can go ahead without noting, but it is better for the board to be aware that if someone is foregoing his salary.
Okay. Any reduction in salary, how it will reflect in their work performance?
So that is I don't know.
Okay. Can the salary of director of KMPs be reduced, leading to reduction of basic, further leading to reduction of PF and gratuity liability? Is it legal as per labor law? Can you reduce their PF and gratuity also?
So if salary is reduced, the PF and gratuity will automatically reduce because they are linked to the basic salary.
Okay. private company's MD forego his commission in COVID, whether need to record in board minutes until election. No, this.
Sir, we have just answered this.
Yeah.
I have answered this question.
No, okay. Whether we need to deduct provision for doubtful debts while calculating managerial remuneration.
Provision for doubtful debts, no.
Okay. Could reason why remuneration? I think this question I will give an answer. Reason why remuneration may be paid to non-executive director on monthly basis, whereas it cannot be paid to independent director. I explained to you this is a governance issue. It is not a legal issue. The question is why you want to pay them monthly, because monthly payment means that he has to live his livelihood because of that amount. So these people are independent director and their livelihood not running by the company's money. So if you pay them monthly, then the question is they are depending upon the company, then their independence will go away. That is a governance issue, not the legal issue. What is the approval if approval is not taken, any action from MCA?
What approval? If MCA, if your MCA approval is no more required, in case you have not obtained shareholder approval, you have to obtain the same at any point of time after the closure of financial year. And in case you continue to pay so without the approval, then it will be deemed a default of the provisions, and MCA might at some point of time take action.
Okay. In case the salary of MD is being reduced, the present circumstances should be amend the KMP agreement which are initially executed between company and MD. If yes,
I don't think so. As Nitesh mentioned, if it is a temporarily reduction for certain time, just by noting it can be done. Otherwise, an addendum to the agreement can also be signed. But temporary reduction can be avoided by amendment can be avoided.
Okay, MGT 14 has to file to ROC with the change in amendment.
Hello.
MGT 14 has to file with ROC
Sir,
for
change in amendment. I don't think so. Yeah, Nitesh, you can.
Yeah, if it is of temporary nature and for 3 years you are reducing it and on the basis of voluntary basis, then does not tantamount to modification. If it is for the whole year, then you should.
Okay, after the appointment of manager person by shareholders, any change in their remuneration can be done by board itself, and to be.
If it is within the overall limits, it can be done by the board.
Okay.
The amount which has been approved by the shareholders.
Okay. In case of payment of commission to a non-executive director, how NRC, which consists of non-executive director, can recommend the payment of commission?
So generally, as we have also mentioned, generally in case of remuneration policies of the companies, payment to remuneration to a non-executive director is not routed to through NRC for the simple reason that the directors are interested. So in most of the companies, there is no such requirement of approval of NRC for payment of commission. In case the NRC policy specifically mentions for approval of NRC, then the resolution has to be filed, passed individually. So the uninterested director will pass the resolution for the interested director and so on.
Okay. How do you think the sitting fees can be paid for circular resolution when there is no meeting?
So the reason why we have mentioned, so the specific provision under the Act provides that board can decide any other way of making this payment. So sitting fees per se is not used anywhere in the Act. It is being by interpretation of the provision that since it is being paid for attending the meeting, it is called as sitting fees. But if you read the provision, it also says for any other purposes. So if I send a director 20 resolutions for circulation, he is spending some time on each of the resolution, analyzing it, why the board can't decide.
So I will decide the payment of fees with the each resolution because they are sending.
That is up to the prerogative of the board. Generally, it is not done, but we are saying it is not prohibited.
Okay, so what about the independent directors meeting, which is also not called the meeting? Can you pay the sitting fees?
Sir, it is not a meeting under the Companies Act, so it is even not a committee. So I think secretarial standards cover this point, and I think provides for payment of sitting fees, but it can be avoided.
I have a point here. If the board decide that they want to pay for that independent director separate meeting, they can very much do within their.
Yeah, they can pay.
Okay. Can there be different sitting fees paid to different directors, say on the basis of their qualification and experience?
Yes, it can be, but it can be paid, but independent directors cannot be paid sitting fees less than the non-executive, non-independent directors.
And women directors can also not be.
Yeah.
Whether we have to pay commission on the basis of profit only, or we can pay any lump sum amount with the requisite approval from the Schedule 5.
Sir, in case of non-executive directors, apart from independent directors, it can be a lump sum amount or it can depend upon the net profits. But in case of independent director, it can only depend upon the net profits as a commission.
Okay. Can a non-resident be appointed as a whole-time director, ED, and the paid remuneration if he is he's on work visa?
In work visa, I think Schedule 5 allows for such appointment. That in case you are coming to in India for work visa for a period of 12 months, you are there, then you can be appointed. Otherwise, you need to seek MC approval.
Okay. In case of inadequacy profit in 2019-20 and foresee inadequacy profit in 2020-21, the board is not in a position to fix the remuneration of the executive director due to business contingency due to COVID. How do we comply with section 197 if the AGM is scheduled in July 2020?
So in AGM, you can pass a resolution for either a waiver for the 19-20 financial year or can take an approval for 19-20. And for 2021, you can still continue with the remuneration what is fixed earlier and can wait for the passage of the year. At the later part of the year, you can decide if the situation remains grim, you can go for a postal ballot and take an approval again in terms of Schedule 5. And otherwise, you always have an option of going for a waiver at the end of the financial year.
Okay, whether Ankit, I'm going for rapid round. So please be specific or whether reappointment of a director liable to retire by rotation also require recommendation of NRC.
I generally don't think so, but this is a practice of being getting through.
By complying the Schedule 5, can we give any amount to remuneration irrespective of financial position of the company? It is a gray area.
I think you can. In case of loss, you can. In case of profit, you cannot go beyond the profit.
Is government planning to any specific elections related to directors' remuneration?
Not yet.
Okay, can we pay remuneration in kind without any specific approval of shareholders in case of cash crunch?
I think there is no such restriction. Nitesh, do you see any restriction?
No, but we have to see the remuneration definition. If it is coming into the remuneration definition, then it will form part of the remuneration. Then we have to see whether that value is exceeding the limits or not.
So, sir, I don't see any issue in giving payment remuneration in kind.
So I have a car company. In place of giving sitting fees or commission, I'm giving cars to my directors. Is it allowed?
I don't think there is any issue.
Okay. If company
when we have to see from the when we have to see from that related party point of view whether related party transaction provisions.
Okay. Is there any cap on remuneration paid to CS? Can a CS who is also whole-time director take any amount of remuneration as a CS?
So if he is a whole-time director, then he is bound by the provisions of section 197.
So his both salary will counted together.
Yes.
Any intimation is required to submit with the stock exchange in case there is a reduction in the remuneration by NRC board due COVID?
So per se, there is no such requirement, but since it is an important discussion, important element, and if company is cutting salaries across, it is better to intimate to the stock exchange.
Should we consider transfer pricing provision while approving the remuneration by audit committee?
I don't think so. Transfer pricing is necessary. Arm's length calculation is important. You can follow principles enumerated in transfer pricing for calculating arm's length pricing, but not necessary you should follow.
If a scale of remuneration is approved by shareholders and board consider to reduce the remuneration below the lower limit to the scale, will the approval of the shareholder be required? Answer is no.
No.
Because why we need to add back director's remuneration in PBT?
Because section 197 provides for addition of remuneration.
Okay, if we paid advance of salary rather than salary, is it okay in COVID situation? So where PF liability will arise or not with the penal provision for past period?
That is a labor law question. I don't think this is the right forum.
Okay. Now there are some questions on the payment of lender's approval. Whether approval of lender will be required if default took place post receipt of shareholders approval?
I think yes.
Okay. Where is the default exists in the time of fixation or remuneration, can the same be paid without obtaining approval of lenders?
No.
Okay. In case of waiver, whether approval of lender is required if default exists at the time of waiver but not during the year of payment?
No.
Okay. Now voluntary waiver. Whether voluntary waiver of salary by MD for 6 months will require any ROC compliance beside the board resolution? Can the board resolution be approved by
No, I don't think so. As Nitesh has mentioned, temporary change is there.
Okay. Some related party transaction. When a company opts for payment or remuneration to a director in terms of provision of section 4 of 197, it would attract the provision of section 188 of the Act, a 188(1)(f). What is the status of this?
Yes, it will. As we have mentioned, any remuneration being paid for director in a professional capacity will attract for the provisions of section 188.
Okay, whether audit committee approval is required in the time of appointment of fixation or remuneration of a managing director?
If he is not a related party before appointment, then it is not required.
Okay. Can during COVID-19 board may temporarily suspend payment of part remuneration without reducing the same? What approval will be required? I'm not reducing, but
I think board itself can take this decision. It is just a deferment of the payment.
Okay. There's a sticklist question. Board want to reduce the remuneration, but the managing director is not agreeing to the same. What is the solution?
So, sir, board is supreme. MD has no choice. He has to either move on or agree with what the board is saying.
Any reduction in payment of managerial remuneration, cut down the managerial remuneration need to be routed through NRC? If answer is yes, reason for the same. If answer is no, reason for the same.
We believe that NRC is there for the purpose of NRC is to determine the appropriate amount of remuneration that is to be paid for a talent. And in case you're reducing that amount, the extent to which that reduction should take place, it should be independently evaluated. And NRC is the committee which is formed for said purpose. So therefore, we feel that it should be routed through NRC to determine the optimum level of reduction.
Okay, Ankit, few questions of foreign subsidiary for more than 2 companies. Whether a director can take remuneration from 2 companies? If yes, in what manner the limit will be calculated?
If both are Indian companies, the Schedule 5 very clearly says highest of the limit of the which company has the highest limit. Up to that limit, the aggregate remuneration can go. In case of a foreign company, since foreign company is not covered under the jurisdiction of Indian laws, so their remuneration will not be included.
Okay. Can a foreign subsidiary or Indian holding company pay the remuneration to managing director or its holding company if the foreign subsidiary is private limited? B, if foreign company is a listed company outside India.
Listed or being private doesn't make any difference. If it's a foreign company, as Nitesh mentioned in the presentation, Schedule 5 specifically covers a situation where a foreign company can pay remuneration to the managerial person of an Indian company.
Okay, whether payment of directors to the Indian company from foreign subsidiary is covered under provision of the Act?
Yes, it is covered under the schedule.
Okay. Whether now some question related to non-executive and independent director. Can we please clear whether the company may pay fixed amount of remuneration to the independent director in both the cases, profit or loss in the company?
No. Only
Please
profit related commission.
Okay. Please highlight the mode of remuneration of non-executive director and separately for independent directors and change in their provision.
So we have already covered that in the presentation.
In case of remuneration of non-executive director, if approval required for every financial year?
If the resolution which was passed earlier doesn't specifically mention for a financial year, it will be required every year. And in a specific case of listed company, as Nitesh covered, where the salary is more than 50%, it is required every year.
Okay. In case increase decrease in ESOP share value, will it create any specific impact on shareholders' approval?
It may, because since perquisite is being considered, so it may be possible that at the time of exercise the value is very high, the market value is very high, so you have a higher amount of perquisite which is beyond the shareholders' approval. Then you need to go back again. But the logic of perquisite being considered as a remuneration, that needs to be looked into.
Okay. In case of ESOP, when the limit of remuneration should be checked?
Nitesh, I think at the time of exercise.
Time of the exercise, you need to check it at the time of the exercise.
Okay. Once the contract for appointment of MD is signed, it would be difficult for the board of directors to unilaterally reduce the salary without the consent of the the concerned MD, because say agreement, so he can go to the court also and say my agreement was there. So what is the position?
He can definitely go. That legal option is always available.
Okay.
Depends upon the MD whether he want to take that to that route or not.
Okay. So I think I have tried to after removing duplicate questions, I have tried to ask various questions from everybody, and they have given. Ankit, there is one question on taxation. How do we protect the liability in the hands of MDA and TDS obligation under Section 192 of Income Tax? It is a contractual payment taxable on accrual basis, and whether voluntary waiver of the part of the salary will not qualify for taxability, passing resolution to the effect that it is a waived irrevocably.
Sir, if salary is reduced, the TDS will also be reduced. But if it is an accrual and it is only being deferred, then since the TDS being charged on accrual basis, then it will be there.
Okay. So I think Ankit, whatever question we have received, we have given the answer. But some questions which are not clear or which people have asked, we have not given. But what we will do? What we'll do? All these questions we will send it to the individual people, and we'll give their reply. And friends, the PPT will send it to you, and the YouTube video link will also send it to all the delegates. I thanks all of you, and I want to inform all of you that on Saturday, the 5 to 6:30, we are organizing our next webinar on leaning out of the group. As you are aware, friend, that today when you are planning, you have formed various companies. Now these companies which we have formed, today there is a need that these companies are not relevant, and you have to shorten these companies because these companies are not working today. So this leaning out of group, consolidation and simplification of group structure and pertinent consideration of post-COVID era, we want to organize this program on Saturday at 5 p.m. The speaker is Preeti Malhotra, the Executive Director of Smart Global, Mr. R.N. Malu, Executive Director of Surya Roshni, Manoj Kumar, Partners Corporate Professional, and we want to discuss the whole lot of issues in this. It's a very interesting program, and it is connected with everybody, those who are in the corporate world, because we have found various companies, and now these companies are not relevant, and the compliance cost has increased, and the requirement violation is also very costly today. So you have to reduce, and because of the COVID era, there's a time that you should reduce these company, otherwise there will be a problem in the various regulatory aspects. And leaving out is a good move. You can reduce your cost and you can concentrate more on focused area. So this program is on 30th May. I'll request all of you, we are sending you mailer shortly so you can participate. And for today's program, thank you very much for all of you for giving this type of support and participating in a big number. And till the last, more than 300 people are still there. They are waiting for their answer, which we have tried to reply. So thank you very much. Thank you, Ankit. Thank you, Nitesh, for giving presentation and the question. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay.